pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody here today, and I think we should just give Dave a minute before we start. I want to get started with that. Does that work on the rules? Can I get started, or do I have to wait?
You can't do any business.
No.
You can talk about things, but you can't vote on them.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, what would everyone like to talk
Did you hear
about?
anything from Lobella?
No.
No, I didn't think you was. That was a tough one for me.
Cards?
Is that against the rule book or anything?
What's that?
Is that against the rule book or anything?
I don't know. Doesn't matter, you can't vote on it, so get your dollars out. Yeah. Liars
You
poker.
wanna go over that?
Right.
I can.
Well, we could have jumped back to that.
Kim's not here to go over it, but.
I think Mark goes over that.
Mark goes over that, I believe. We can cover that. Land bank, landfill credit use. Kind of jump into the back. Yeah. That is what it is. It's at least something we could do with the legislator host.
You use $6,900, that's send your report.
Wow. Well, that was productive.
How about those roads this morning, huh?
Yeah.
Why do we gotta go there? That's how we got
There he
here.
is. There he is. Have a seat. Hey, just kidding.
We could talk about all the trash we made today, you know? Put it over at the park.
We just did the pledge, and now I'm looking for the approval of the minutes. I know everyone had a chance to review.
Move it.
First by legislator House, second by legislator Lockwood. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we will approve. First item up is IT1, the resolution authorizing budget modification, central services budget to transfer on IT expenses. You want to say anything, Craig?
We had some additional expenses in there, similar to what we had last year, but we were anticipating some savings in a couple of other budget lines this year, so did do an adjustment for it. Although the savings we anticipated were realized, like in cell phone coverage and also the after hours answering service that was primarily utilized for health department related calls to the COVID line. Those came in, but there were other expenses, so these additional funds to cover phone charges. And there's also, that is reflected in next year's budget request to an increase to associated budget lines.
Look for a motion to move. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator House. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Carries. Next one, IT2, budget modification, central services budget to transfer to IT expenses. Again, if you want to say anything, Craig?
Some additional expenses this year, purchase of licensing, things like that. Copy costs are up a bit. Do have, that's reflected in next year's budget as well, increase to some of those lines, but we need some additional funds.
The end of the year, and the moving things from here and there to
Yeah.
cover.
Shuffle around and cover it.
Understood. The motion to move.
I'll move it.
First by legislator House, second by legislator Wilmot. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries. IT3, resolution authorizing budget modification, central services to establish capital project 20221 for audio visual upgrades. Again, Greg, you're the popular guy of the day.
The bulk of this is to cover upgrades to the legislative chambers for, new hardware that's in that rack in the corner, new speakers in the ceiling, some displays, 2 displays to go behind the curtains up behind the front part there. It reflects us doing the work. Why it's less expensive than that big of a package that we went out for that we found turning down. And then there's some additional funds in there too to do a couple of conference rooms and pick up some other kind of smaller projects on the AV side.
All right. Thank you. Motion to move, first by legislator Lockwood, second by legislator Holst. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, carries. IT4, resolution, budget modification, Department of Solid Waste Earth for repairs and maintenance equipment.
Yeah, this is, we have machines that run a long time at the earth, so our air compressors have 100,000 hours on them. And sometimes they just need to be rebuilt, and you never know when it's going to say that's enough to get estimates, so this money moving for the cost of repairs of equipment.
Understood. And then we've got a river water pump on there too.
Yeah, so if you remember, 3 years ago,
Yeah, I remember.
the other ones lasted 17 years. We bought all 4 new river water pumps. We lost 2 within a month of each other. The same pump from Gould's. I don't know if it was,
Those are the line shaft, right?
yes, lead time like 4 months. Can't run the turbines without it. So right now, I've got one at a local machine shop because they can make the shafts and the bearings faster than I can get them from Gould's.
How many gallon a minute are those?
A couple thousand gallons a minute. And there's 2 pumps for each turbine, so you're pumping about 4,000 gallons a minute through that condenser.
And that water comes out of the river?
Comes out of the river, goes through that single pass condenser right back into the river.
I think you
Good,
can
any more?
Are they under warranty or anything, or they're only?
We tried, so the factory rep took it apart, and he's saying, well, the pump ran dry. It's like, well, 2 things, it can't run dry, it's submerged. It's a wet well next to the river, but it's submerged, and the turbine can't run without water going through that condenser. It over temperature like that, so it can't. The machine shop taking it apart, of course, it's his word against theirs, is saying there's a coupling on those shafts. It was never butted together. It wasn't assembled properly. So every time that 40 horsepower turns that on, eventually it just breaks that coupling. The shaft goes, takes out the bearings, takes the pump out.
You're right. Yeah, I've taken them apart before. I know.
Understood. Motion to move. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator House. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries. IT5, resolution, budget mod, Department of Solid Waste, perfect.
Yeah, so this is a big account. It starts out at $580,000, but we buy everything out of this account, like lime, it's $6,000 about every 9 days. Our carbon is $1,500 a ton. Pumps, everything we buy is out of that. Last year, once again, we budgeted to buy new emissions monitors because they were 20 years old, obsolete. You need parts and they laugh at you. Maybe you can find them on eBay. Long story short, the new ones, they could never make them work right. So now I had to buy the next highest price one, which was double the money, which I wasn't budgeting for. That was $60,000. We bought 1 new river pump, and we're repairing 2. So there's $75,000 right there that we weren't planning on spending because we'd already replaced that equipment. So just, it's expensive. We need to keep moving money around.
I'm just gonna motion to move it. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator Lockwood. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carries. IT6, resolution establishing capital project number 0521, phase 1 of the Oswego County Building Security. Is that under you, Greg, or would that be under Rick? That's under
It's both. Rick wants to talk about
Yeah.
We both worked on it, but this is the first phase of the door and camera security. The first phase, we're looking to get most of the doors done and a few cameras. But it's, the total project, I believe, was $720,000. Looking for $200,000 to start the project.
And I know this is something that's been coming for a while.
it's inevitable. It has to happen at some point.
Absolutely. For a motion to move it? So moved. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator House. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, carries.
Here are all the budget maps. So,
Perfect. Now, on to this. Ally?
Well, Mark's here. The first one is for refractory materials. And, they gave me names of 3 vendors to, plus we posted it on our website on VidNet and advertised in our local paper. And they selected, refractory maintenance work. And attached is all the pricing. Yeah.
Have a motion to move it. First by legislator Lockwood. The second by legislator Holst. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Carried. Okay, go ahead.
The next one is for guide rails. Again, we sent it out, we directly solicited some vendors. We're rebuilding our list. While purchasing was done in Onondaga, that all kind of went away and we have outdated lists. So as we do different bids or RFPs with new, we're trying to add all our new vendors and update all our lists. So we solicited 4 people, we advertised, we posted, and then you can see there's an attachment showing the pricing, I think. Yeah. So,
Several different.
right, Shamong Supply was the, actually the only bidder that responded, yeah. Then, we have more.
Ready for a motion to move? Motion to move it. First by legislator Lockwood, second by legislator Holst. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay.
The next one was the washed limestone. We sent it to 2 vendors. We had 5 vendors respond. And Hanson Aggregates was the lowest bidder who bid on all of the items. And then you can see all the pricing and you can see that they were the only vendor that bid on everything.
That's who we currently use, isn't it?
Yes.
See how we use that. Okay, any questions? Motion to move it. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator House. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, carries.
The next bid was for snow removal of the DSS parking lot. And again, we have to build up our vendor list. So we sent it to Midstate and we publicly advertised it and posted it. And we did only get 1 response from Midstate. And then you can see all his pricing, there's an attached schedule.
Motion to move it. Moved. Legislator Holst, second by legislator House. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Carries. That was, thank you, Holly. That was house food. Our bids, and we had on discussion, written down here, we're gonna discuss the write-off contract.
Yeah, so, Lydall, which I'm not sure what their name is gonna be in the very near future, because they were bought out. So they don't even know, but it's a done deal. So their contract is 2 years, and it expired. We've been in negotiations, on sessions, but at the end of the day, we've agreed to just renew the contract as is for 2 years. So if that's acceptable, then it'll have to be a resolution. So next month, I'll bring it to committee for a vote with a resolution to go for, just to extend the 2-year contract as it currently exists.
Understand. So, motion. Motion to extend the contract under the current terms. Current terms. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator Wilmot. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. All set. Any business? Okay, I already went over the land bank thing, and with Rick, I understand we have someone looking for some more space.
We have Chicago Title Company, they're downstairs now, and they're renting space for $425 a month. The other title company, or another title company that was down there, has moved out, and they want to rent that space in addition to what they have now.
At the same cost, right?
Same cost, it's an additional $425 a month.
Is it the same square footage?
Same square footage, yes.
Okay, so everything be the same, we just have to have Richie drop another contract, right?
Mhm.
Looking for a motion to have Richie drop another contract for the additional square space. Oh. Got a question? Oh. First by legislator Lockwood, second by legislator House. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right. That, now we're on to budget review. Okay, first one up. Mark. I know most of us have read through, any changes, so. What page button?
Well, solid waste starts on page 180.
Everybody there? So our budget, I'm not gonna go every line because most of it doesn't change too much. I'll just kind of give you the highlights. So on page 181, this is the biggest increase is to the highway and street equipment. We have the 5-year equipment plan that's found in our plan. We need we haul about 14 million gallons of water from the leachate to the sewage treatment plant a year, and we need a new tank truck and a tank and a truck to haul it. So that's the increase there. Really not much changes on that page. On page 182, on near the top on the account 5438, other fees and services, we are actually going to reduce that by $50,000 because as of right now we're getting paid for recyclables at a decent price. But you know how volatile that is. But I feel confident that we can reduce because we're not paying. We were up for the last couple of years paying to have those processed. Cost more than they were worth. And so then on that same page down on the sale of recyclables, I'm going to increase that revenue by $50,000. And we've already seen that, more than that this year. So didn't go too crazy with it, but I do feel that that's a good number. So increase in revenue, decrease in expense. That's always a good thing. And as far as that goes, that's really the only real big changes to the budget. Everything, if you look at the other lines, they're very similar. Very slight increase over last year's overall budget. So the only other thing,
I know everyone's pretty much read through most of the changes.
we are seeking to reclassify 2 positions in this budget. So on the division of solid waste side, there's only 1 account clerk. That account clerk previously was handling soup to nuts, from permitting the haulers to receiving the payments to doing the bank deposit. And you can see where there could be a problem with one person doing, also working with the treasury department. We kind of split out duties, but there's no other person. So we want to reclassify the solid waste program assistant to a principal account clerk to actually oversight. So there's a break in duties where this one deposits, this one now does the audit and can't make changes to all the accounts. So that is one change. And then on the other side, on the earth, we only have 1 clerical person in the whole building. Well, and that's a senior typist. And their duties really are more in line with the senior account clerk, with the municipal, with all the processing of all the invoices, and that's a slight change. So requesting to classify those 2 positions.
Is that something we just do it after page 4? We do that right here.
It's already in there, right?
That's in the budget, but I just want to let you know that was the only change, and those are already, those reflected in the budget, but this paperwork is in with the budget package.
Okay, I didn't know if it required additional action. Or- Okay, all set. We just accept his, or do we do them all at once?
No, you do each individual.
All right. Does anybody have any questions with Mark's budget?
No.
All right, let's do a motion to accept it.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, first by legislator Lockwood, second by legislator Holst. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good job. Thank you, Mark. All right. On the highway.
We start on page 188. I'm sure most of you have looked at it. One of the high points we got is we took $1 million out of the 5110 line for salaries and put it into our CHIPS line. We're going to try that this year to get all our labor and stuff into one line, as we do for the paving and the stuff in the summertime. That allows us to build back the CHIPS. That was one of the big issues that we talked about last year. We got that in this year. And other than that, my fuel line's the same. Not sure how that's gonna work out, but we'll see how it goes, you know. Fuel keeps creeping up.
Yeah.
Creeping up.
Creeping up.
Fast.
75 cents, $1.09.
So, I mean, it is what it is right now, and maybe at the end of the year, next year, I might put some in, middle of the summer, I don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot, so.
Where are you now? What's up?
I have $156,000 left right now, so we should make it. I just filled everything up, so, and with that, I still have 156 left, so. We should be close there.
Mild winter.
Huh?
Mild winter.
Yeah, well, let's see.
We're good so far.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, if you guys got any questions, I mean, that's really, I didn't do much with anything with budget.
Anyone have any questions? All right. The motion to move highway bid. First by legislator Holst, second by legislator Wilmot. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Carries. On to facilities and technology. Where's that? There's B&D.
48 is information.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, if you get
Yeah,
to this
well,
page,
I was looking down here and I said, well,
you look up.
facilities and technology.
That was easy.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
All set then?
P&G is page 39.
Okay, yeah, I brought just a copy. So under the equipment line, we had to raise that a little bit this year. Prices are just crazy as far as repairs go. And that's all of our contractors there. So we, under the repairs for building, we went from, well, we're looking for 200,000. So we did up that some. Down from there, that's all of our contracts. Snow removal, trash removal, generator maintenance. We've raised that a little bit just to cover contracts. Building supplies, once again, it says cleaning supplies there, but that's also maintenance supplies, wood, motors, all that stuff that we buy. So we did have to raise that a little this year also. Down from there, electricity, kind of self-explanatory there. Everything's going up so much that that's just what we're projecting for next year. And then also on the next page, same with gas and heating and fuel. So those are the big changes. As far as personnel, we stayed where we were last year.
Anyone have any questions?
I would also just want to draw attention that I do have some federal ARPA reimbursement in buildings and grounds, cover some of the extra cleaning and HVAC stuff that they will do that's COVID related.
I think we talked about that before, didn't we? About some of the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay.
All right, does anyone have any questions regarding the budget? Get a motion to approve it. First by legislator House, second by legislator Holst. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Carries. Last but not least, Greg.
So on page 48 there, the first section, which is central telephone. The main primary item there that increased is the 5423 line. It's actually only a 35,000 increase. There's an additional 56,000 in that line, but that's offset by a revenue line that's down a little bit further. Those are that was like three chargebacks we do to 3 or 4 departments for phone service. They pay out of their own budgets. They have to do that so they can submit that expense to the state for reimbursement. That's been happening for a number of years. I'm not sure how long, but it's never really been reflected in the budget. So we stuck that in here so there's a more accurate reflection of that activity. The 35,000, as I mentioned, there's some increases. We put a different fiber circuit in at DSS, or a different backup internet circuit at the fiber. It's $1,600 a month versus the other one that was $100 a month. So we had that expense last year, but we were able to cover it. And again, I thought we would have some offsets from savings, which we did, but there are some other increases. Our analog phone lines that we get through Verizon, there was an increase at the state contract rate, but those went up a bit. And we've seen some other increases due to billing. I think as a function of remote work, people forwarding their phones out to their cell phones, and also increased phone activity into our hotline, our COVID-related lines, like the DMV has, and our health department has. So kind of nets out overall need about 35,000 more for the telephone part of the budget. Any questions on that part?
No.
So moving into the next section, which is really kind of the core IT budget. There's some increases there too, at least the first pass on it, that reflects some changes in revenue lines. Our biggest revenue line is our cooperative agreement with DSS. We appreciate Veronica's help on that, getting that all tuned up properly. We trimmed that back a little bit because we're kind of double dipping in it. There are some telephone expenses that are actually covered in the cost allocation plan. So working with the Vanessa group, we got that tuned up properly. There was also some revenue that we've had in there in the past with printing tax bills. We shifted that out of the budget and moved over, at least the IT budget, to the real property budget, because they really do the bulk of the work. We mainly just print the tax bills. So there were some changes that looks a little bit higher from that standpoint. One of our main, but there's a few kind of minimal budget lines in here. As we go down to it, I adjusted down a bit just to experience. I thought we could leave them up a little bit. There's some add-ins like our vacation buyback wasn't in here before, so there's a 5,000 add for that. We put our training funds back in. A couple other things too on the payroll line. When we consolidated the department, the 3 IT departments in 2019, that was the DSS department, their IT group, the health department IT group, and then the main IT group of PSC. We consolidated those. There were 11 full-time positions at that time. We wound up getting trimmed back to 10 and requesting that position back. So that's in the payroll line here. I do have a reclass in here as well for a account clerk position. Looking to convert that into basically a hybrid position that also has IT duties. That position has done IT work, phone support, and person in it now. We're kind of training in other areas, so the person's been working out of class. So getting that position classed as it should be, so it's really have an optimal fit for what my department does. There's some other counties in the state that have hybrid positions like that for really the same reason. It's maybe a half-time job for strictly clerical work. So we're really kind of trying to optimize that. And there's funding also added back in for the summer intern position that we have. We have a summer intern this year that was unpaid, but I think it's great if we can pay a junior or senior level college student to and also with the groundwork we can assign to somebody and get some real value out of that. Those are the main changes. Looking at the kind of the final line in here, the net county for the 2022 proposed budget is 966. Just compared that back to 2017, that was 963. So we've added some expenses. We've got some different applications we run, softwares we run for security, backup, and recovery, different things we really needed to get in place and added to the budget. Getting that cooperative agreement in place, and also getting some grant funding. Really kind of kept the budget pretty steady again, comparing next year to where we were in 2017. The net county cost is pretty much the same. So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I just got one. So that reclassification, the senior account clerk to help desk specialist,
Yeah, it is.
it seems kind of odd that would be a combined. I mean, that's the title change. It's pretty significant money if that's what they're doing for the job. But it just seems a little odd that you could combine those two and that's a reposition. I mean, a reclass isn't a redetermination. You know, we don't want to create something new, so.
Yeah, and so where there's, I think, a synergy there is the type of work that person is doing in terms of clerical duties. That person, we're also working with the person who oversees the like the Munis system or other enterprise applications. So the work that's done in that role, the hands-on, AP work, purchasing, putting in requisitions, that provides insight into also taking on a support role for our ERP system.
Well, I can see the similarities there, but just that the help desk specialist, that job description would cover also the accountant piece.
Yeah.
Because that's the key, is the job description, not just the title. Is that legit?
You're in it through HR, right?
Yeah, Julie and I talked about that, and that's what we came up with. I suppose it could be something different.
Yeah, it does really look odd, because whenever we combine them, they're a great idea, I can totally agree with them. We want to get stuff done and be efficient.
I think we talked about like IT administrator or something like that, and looking at what a couple other counties have for their job description.
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
I'm
It's
good, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone have any questions?
We're gonna need time to set up that
First
up.
by legislator House, second by legislator Holst. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries. I believe that concludes everything. All right.
Thank you. Oh, okay. We already ordered it.
What's that? No. I said, Richie, I said, I get it back recorded again this one? We have it?
Well, we will need to add something to the next committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, executive session, Mexico.
Understood. I'd like to make it a full meeting without some. All right. That's it. Second for a motion to adjourn. First by legislator Rouse, second by legislator Lockwood. All in favor? Aye.